Hey guys, today I'm going to be talking to you about the books that I read in the very long month of January. So hi, my name's Talia. I love books, I love bandanas. I'm so glad you're at my channel today. I read 6 books in January, which is fantastic. That's above my goal of 5 per month. In my video where I talked about my goals for 2024, I'm trying to cut back the amount of books I read. But I think January was just so long that I was able to fit in an extra. So pretty pumped about that. And I had 2 3-stars, 2 4-stars, and 2 5-stars. So let's just jump right in and talk about those. So the first book I read was Hidden Pictures by Jason. I can't read my own handwriting. It's either Rukula or Rukulak. I don't know, the cover's gonna be over here so you can see it. So I actually did read a physical copy of this book. It was a library copy, and right when I finished it, I had to give it back to the library because this book had some scary pictures in it. And I was like, I don't want this book laying around and my kids to come and open it and be like, what's this? We're gonna have nightmares forever. I actually had it sitting by the door for a day to remind myself to take it to the library, and one of my kids picked it up at one point and I was like, no, put the book down. So anyways, Hidden Pictures is about this girl who's a recovering addict, and she gets this job as a nanny for this couple. And she moves into this house. They have a mother-in-law house attached, not attached, across the yard. So she's staying in this little guest house thing. And during the day she takes care of this child. So a nanny gig, And right away, she notices something off with this kid. He keeps drawing these scary pictures and talking about this imaginary friend, and you start to realize pretty quickly that it's more than just an imaginary friend and more than just normal kid drawing scary pictures. You start to get very creepy vibes. So it kind of goes from there. This was a book club pick, and I will say it was not a book I would pick for myself or probably read again, just because there was some stuff in it that was really creepy and I was like, ugh. But I did like it, and I did feel the twists at the end, I was like, what was happening? And it was an enjoyable read. I was actually reading this, I started it on New Year's Eve and finished it by the next day. I read it over the course of 2 days. So it was a fast, enjoyable read. It was just the pictures were so scary, and the pictures were integrated into the book, but you'd be reading, and then it would be at this point where it's okay, I'm gonna turn the page and see what picture it's talking about, and you're just oh my gosh. And it's funny because at my book club, some people listen to the audiobook, so they missed out on the picture aspect of it, and I do think that they didn't get the full vibes of what is going on in this book. The book is called Hidden Pictures. There was a lot of pictures in it, and I do think that if you're gonna read Hidden Pictures, you need to have a physical copy of it, because I literally was getting chills up my spine when I turned the page. I'm oh, so scary, some of these pictures. Yeah, just scariness. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it at that because there's no way to talk more about it without spoiling all the good stuff. But it was good. It was fine. That was a 3-star. It was an enjoyable read, not something I feel you need to rush out and get. But if you're able to get a cheap copy, definitely it was entertaining for sure. Okay, the next book I read was The Fury by Alex Michaelides. If you're wondering why this name is familiar, it's because he wrote the very popular book The Silent Patient, which I liked, but I actually liked this one more. I thought this was really entertaining. So we have our main character who's this kind of struggling actor, and he goes to this island with a couple of his friends, and there's a murder right at the beginning, and the whole time you're he's telling kind of the story of what happened and flashing back to his background of how he met these friends that he was on the island with, and you're trying to figure out what is going on, what happened here. And I will say, I knew going into it, this is an unreliable narrator, you can't really trust what he's saying, and you do at the very beginning, you're kind of what's going on with this guy? Like, what's happening here? So the whole book, I'm like, I'm gonna solve this. I'm gonna figure it out. Like, I put in all these tabs. These tabs are like, anytime I like saw something suspicious, or I was like, oh, I bet it's this. I was like putting in all these tabs. And I thought, like, up until like 2/3 through, I thought I had it. I was like, no, I know what's going on here. I didn't know it all. Like the last like third, I was like, what? I was like, no way. Yeah, totally blew my mind a little bit. So I really liked this. I thought it was really entertaining. I don't know if I liked it more because I was like hunting for the moment, because for Silent Patient I was just kind of reading it and like going along, and then it like really shocked me at the end. But I think part of me is like the suspense of knowing it was going to be shocking, even though I didn't really read any reviews or anything ahead of time, but I just, because this was just released, I think it was, I don't know if it's an early release for Book of the Month, but it like came out right when it was coming out, you know? And yeah, I think just like assuming, based on what I know from The Silent Patient and like his style of writing, assuming it was gonna be crazy, like made me really excited. And yeah, I really enjoyed this one. So 5 stars for The Fury. I will say I hate the cover. I don't understand, like it takes place on this island, and like you can see like the island here, it's all nice, but like what's up with this circle and dot, and like it's like a human mouth there. I don't understand. The back is better. See, you can just see the island and it's like nice. Don't like the cover, but that does not take away from the story. It was excellent. Okay, then I listened to Echo by Pam Munoz Ryan. And this book, I will say, this is technically a middle grade book, but I will say this book is a book that any adult could listen to. Like it felt very like as if adults could read it. It was clean, obviously, like clean content, but it was a story that like tackled deep topics and was pretty long, and was really, really good. This was my other 5-star for the month. So we have like 4 different stories actually, but like different stories that take place, and they all kind of center or have this harmonica involved. And the harmonica, like for example, the first kid is like during World War II era, and he is living in Germany, but he and his family are not Nazi supporters. So they're like feeling this intense stress about getting captured and being taken away from their home because they don't support what Hitler is trying to force upon them. And part of like his sideline of the story is he has this harmonica that he likes to play and like makes him feel good. And it's like, there's part of the harmonica. So then you kind of cut off, and then you move to the next story, and it's this other child who has this same harmonica, but it's like 10 years in the future, and the same harmonica comes into play. So you have like these stories that all kind of center around this harmonica, but it's very like historical fiction dealing with difficult topics of that point in that like era in history. And then you kind of have like the characters weaving together, and there's kind of like this central like fairy tale story they kind of weave into. I'm probably doing a terrible job of explaining it, but you guys, it was so good. And the audiobook was wonderful. It had like harmonica music kind of that would come in and out throughout it, and it had a couple different narrators, and it was really well done. It was really an enjoyable book to listen to. I'm sure it would be great to read as well, but I thought the audiobook was fantastic. Fantastic stories, fantastic lessons. Again, could definitely be read by a child, but it's one of those middle grade books that I'm like, this is perfectly enjoyable for an adult. Like, I loved it all the way. Okay, the next book I read was a NetGalley, so read it on my phone, which is not my favorite way to read. The only way I read Kindle books is if they're NetGalley picks, and I'm always happy when like it's worth going through that experience reading it on my phone. So I'm gonna read the title because it was really long. So If You See Them, Young, Unhoused, and Alone in America. And this was by Vicky Sokolik. So this is a nonfiction. It was just published in January of this year. And Vicky Sokolik became aware of unaccompanied homeless youth when her son had one as a friend. So basically this is her story of the unaccompanied homeless youth in America, and her kind of story becoming aware of them and starting this nonprofit to help them. So unaccompanied homeless youth are basically kids the age like 17, 18-ish, sometimes even younger, that have left their homes due to unsafe environments. So we're not talking about just teenagers that like don't like rules and regulations and are like, my parents are so mean, and like run away. We're not talking about those kids. We're talking about kids that have lived in homes with like systemic abuse, parents who have not taken care of them at all, and their home environment is not a safe place for them to live. So they leave and try to support themselves, which is super challenging to do when you're 16 years old. And a lot of times they don't have access to their birth records or any thing like that. So it's very hard for them to get work, hard to stay in school when they're trying to support themselves. Yeah, really sad. Really sad situations. Really eye-opening. And these aren't kids that really are end up in the foster system, because even if there's been like inquiries into their past, they've either not been picked up by the foster system, or they are just now old and don't want to go into the foster system because they're like at the age where they're like trying to become adults. You know what I mean? So really, this book had so many statistics, and it shared so many sad stories, because in it she got some of the kids like that have been in her programs to share kind of their stories and backgrounds, and like from their point of view meeting her and going into these programs, because she now has programs where she has built housing for these kids. She helps them like apply to school. She helps them get jobs. She like basically takes them under her wing. And I don't even know how many. She started just like one at a time, just like taking one kid off the street. Like, how can I help you? How can I make this better for you? How can I help you stay in school? How can I help you get a job? How can I help you get your documentation? Which is basically like impossible for like a 17-year-old to get their own birth certificate. Like, there's been like changes and laws made that makes this easier since then. So she also goes through like kind of the process and regulations and court meetings that she's gone to with like some of these kids to get laws changed for future kids that are like having to support themselves because their parents were either on drugs, or parents allowing them to be abused, or like just terrible stuff. Like, it was definitely like, there were parts of this book where I was like, I just have to put this down because this is so sad. So sad, but really good, really eye-opening, really just amazing the way she has started so small, and like now she has this huge organization, and she has people that work for her, and she's like trying to expand and trying to get not only laws changed for unaccompanied homeless youth in Florida where she lives, but other states, and trying to just raise awareness for this just tragic problem we have in our society. So yeah, definitely recommend. It was really good. 4-star. At some parts I was kind of dragging, so hard to give a book like this a 4-star, because like the ideas are 5 all the way. As far as like how it was put together and written, a couple parts were kind of choppy, but definitely recommend that one for sure. The next book was an audiobook, The Beekeeper of Aleppo by Christy Lefteri. This is a 3-star, but this is a book that I feel like if you put the author note at the beginning of the book, I would have liked it more. Do you guys ever read books where you're like, you get to the end and you read the whole thing, and then you read the author note and you're like, I wish I would have known that. I would have seen it in a different light. So this is a book about a beekeeper from Aleppo, historical fiction. It covers the Syrian refugee trail from Syria to Europe. So it covers this man and his wife. They've recently lost their son in bombings in Syria, and they're trying to make this journey to safety, basically, to get out of their homeland into Europe. And it covers the span and the long, very challenging journey to get there. And part of the timeline takes place in Greece. So one of the things I actually didn't love about the book was there was a lot of jumping around in timeline, which usually I'm okay with, but it happened so frequently that I had a really hard time. And I think partly because I was listening to it too, there was no like notification when you were going to a different timeline. It would literally be like talking, and then it would be like talking and you're like, I guess we switched timelines, like this isn't making sense anymore. And there was some like kind of visions the guy was having as well, because he had some severe post-traumatic stress going on from losing his son. So you're like, oh wait, am I in a vision now? Am I in the past timeline? Am I in the future timeline? Am I in the present? Like, what's going on? You know? So that was probably the main reason it's 3 stars, is because it was just challenging to follow. But one of the timelines takes place in Greece, when they're kind of in the final step trying to get from Greece into Europe, where he's trying to meet this family member. And the author's note at the end of the book is talking about how she was actually like a social worker in Greece working with these refugees, and she met a beekeeper, I think, at one point, and he became kind of like, obviously she fictionalized all his past and stuff, but he became kind of like the inspiration for this book. So when a person's actually been working with these refugees, it just gives it so much more credit to, like, in my mind, I'm like, oh, you really know what you're talking about. You know what I mean? Like, you've seen things that I will have not seen, and you like, I don't know, it just gives it more credit. So I wish that would have been at the beginning. I think I would have enjoyed the story a little bit more. So yeah, it was okay. It was very sad. It was very depressing. There was not a lot of like, actually, I don't know if there was any really uplifting moments. Like, some of the past was like happy, but then you knew what was going to happen. So it was just pretty depressing. A good story. I feel like it's harder for me reading it's like historical fiction, but it's not historical. Like, this is happening like now, like this not very long ago is this happening, you know what I mean? These people have cell phones that they're like on the trail with, you know what I mean? It's not it's so close to present day, which makes it super hard and super challenging to read, but also super important, because we're just like over here hanging out, living our lives, and we have no idea what's going on in other parts of the world. So yeah, loved learning about it. This is not my favorite book on the Syrian refugee crisis. What's the other one that I do love? Oh, As Long as the Lemon Trees Grow is also Syrian refugee, and I liked that a lot more. So for what it's worth, that's what I have to say about that. The last book that I read in January was Renegades by Marissa Meyer. Man, I'm bummed because I wanted this to be a 5-star. I loved the Lunar Chronicles so much, as I said like a million times. That was all 5-star for me. This was a 4-star. I will say the end of this book, like, it has like a last page like moment, and I kind of loved that. Like, that made me be like, I need to read the next one soon. So Renegades is about the Renegades and the anarchists. And this takes place in the future. And our main character is Nova, and she's an anarchist. And the anarchists basically, like, want to do their own thing. And there's been this ongoing, like, war, basically this ongoing struggle with the prodigies, which are all these people, anarchists or renegades, but they have like special powers. So Nova's power is like she can just touch someone and put them to sleep. And there's other people, like there's one that like can like turn herself into a flock of butterflies, like just like disband and she's butterflies now, like all these different powers, right? So Nova is an anarchist. She comes from a line of people who like don't want to be told what to do, want all the prodigies to just be able to like live and be on their own. Okay, so there's been kind of problems in the past history with that, because there was kind of anarchy when they were trying to be in control. Not just with them, but with like these random gangs and stuff that came out. So the anarchists are not really in power right now. The renegades are in power, and the renegades are like, oh, we want peace and we are gonna keep everyone under control, and they're like kind of like the superheroes. So like Nova is an anarchist, but she goes undercover to be a renegade, to try to get like inside secrets, to figure out like how they can take the Renegades down, because the anarchists have been like living literally in this like tunnel underground for like 10 years since the Renegades like kind of took over them. So we kind of go from there. And I liked it. I will say, like, the characters don't like suck you in the way the characters in Lunar Chronicles suck you in. Like, I loved those characters. I was like rooting for them. This felt like it wasn't as well written. Like, there was times when I was just like, no one would ever make that decision. You know what I mean? Like, you're just like, oh no, she wouldn't do that. Like, I get that this is a book and you can make whatever happen, but like, this is not what would happen. So that bugged me. I just didn't really like, Nova's fine, but she's not a character that you're gonna love. Like, you feel a little empathy because she has like a sad story, but you're just kind of like, what's gonna happen here? And it's like entertaining, but for me there was like more action scenes than I like wanted, like, but then again it like flowed. Like, I kept reading, and the end really made me want to see what happens next. So I will be continuing on with less enthusiasm that I read the Lunar Chronicles though, but still a decent read. You'll be entertained. It's big but reads fast. I think this it's YA, so it reads pretty fast. It's pretty clean. It's decent. So that wrapped up the month. So yeah, 6 books, and I feel like it was a wide variety, which I like, having like a wide variety in my reading, and overall pretty enjoyable. What did you read in January? Any of these? I don't even know what I was gonna say. Have you read any of these? If so, let me know in the comments. And yeah, I hope you're doing well wherever you are. I hope you take some time today to read a good book or two. And if you are having a bad hair day, just wear a bandana. Bye. Okay, I realized 2 things about when I filmed earlier today. The first is that I didn't talk about my DNFs, and I did DNF 2 books, but now it's late at night and I'm too tired to talk about DNF books because I don't really like to talk about the books that I hated. So we're just gonna save those for another day. But I did want to talk about this also in my video because I said I was going to talk about it every month and open little gifts that I had earned, and I totally did not even think about it at all. So I have looked at it now, and the one that I'm going to open is this one. Oh, and I'm going to turn it around and open it, and it is go to a author event, and I went to an author event this month. So I'm going to turn it around so you can see it better, and I'm going to open it and see what present I earned myself for the month of January. Okay, so like here's a view of the whole book, and I talked about this a little bit in my goals for January 2024 video, but I earned this for the month. So attend an author event in person or virtually, and I attended an author event in person. So let's see what's in this little packet, if I can even get it. Awkward angle. Oh, that's fun. It's like, what do you call this? Like washi tape? Is that what it's called? I can't remember. I'm going to have to look it up, but that is super, super cute. Fun. I like it. I have no idea what I'm going to do with that yet, but maybe I'll give it to my kids and they can stick it all over the place. No, it's my tape. I'm going to keep it for mine. Okay, that's all. Cool. Stay tuned for next month. We'll see what other prizes I can earn for myself.